Stories have always been the way human beings pass down wisdom. Long before books were printed or schools were built, people sat together and shared stories that carried lessons about life. In Buddhism, stories are not only meant for entertainment, but also serve as simple doors that open into deep truths. Many of these stories were told by the Buddha himself when he wanted to teach his disciples in a way that even a child could understand. They are moral stories, short in form but vast in meaning, reminding us that wisdom and compassion can be found in the most unexpected places. One such story is known as the Wise Parrot. At first glance, it seems to be about a tiny bird, fragile and powerless compared to the vast forest it lives in. Yet this little parrot becomes the hero of the tale, not because of strength or clever tricks, but because of loyalty, courage, and a heart that refuses to abandon what it loves. In this story, we are invited to see how even the smallest creature can carry a lesson so powerful that it shakes the hearts of gods. The parrot does not live for itself alone. It is born into a forest that provides it food, shelter, and a safe place to grow. When that forest is struck by disaster, every other bird thinks first of survival. They fly away to look for a safer home. The parrot, however, chooses to stay. It refuses to leave behind the place that once gave it life. With nothing more than its wings and its determination, it fights against the flames that threaten to destroy everything. The parrot is not blind to the danger, but its sense of duty and gratitude is greater than fear. Why is this story important? Because it touches on something very real in our own lives. We often face moments where the world around us seems to fall apart. Friends may turn away, circumstances may become difficult, and the easy choice is to protect ourselves and forget about others. Yet the parrot shows another way. It teaches us that real strength is not found in running from problems, but in staying true to our responsibilities, no matter how small we are or how hopeless the situation looks. The Wise Parrot is not just a children's tale. It is a mirror held up to our own hearts. When we hear about this tiny bird trying to save an entire forest, we are asked a simple but profound question. What would we do if we were in its place? Would we abandon the world that raised us? Or would we do our part, however little it might seem? The story tells us that even a drop of water, when offered with love, carries more power than a mountain of selfishness. As we begin this journey into the story of the Wise Parrot, let us remember that Buddhism does not always speak through philosophy or abstract thought. Sometimes the clearest light shines through a simple image, a bird with scorched wings, refusing to give up, showing us the meaning of loyalty, gratitude, and compassion. This is where our story begins. Long ago, before cities and villages covered the land, there was a great forest filled with life. The trees were tall and green, their branches spread wide like arms protecting everything below. Rivers and streams ran through the forest, giving water to plants, animals, and birds. The air was fresh, filled with the songs of countless creatures. It was the kind of place where life felt endless, where every sunrise painted the leaves in gold, and every sunset gave the forest a warm glow of peace. Among all the creatures who lived there was a small parrot. At first sight, the parrot was not special. It was small, with feathers of green that blended into the leaves. Its wings were not as strong as an eagle's, and its voice was not as sweet as a songbird's. Yet this little bird carried something far more precious than strength or beauty. It carried a heart filled with loyalty and a mind that could see beyond itself. The parrot loved the forest as a child loves its mother. Every fruit it ate, every drop of water it drank, and every tree that gave it shelter felt like a gift that could never be repaid. It would fly each day from one corner of the forest to another, not only to search for food, but also to enjoy the beauty of the place. When it perched high in the branches, it would often stop and look around as if to say, "This is my home, and I will never leave it." The forest was not only a place of safety, it was also the teacher of the parrot. In the forest, the parrot learned patience from the slow growth of trees, courage from the animals that faced danger, and wisdom from the flowing streams that never stopped moving forward. Other birds lived there too, and in times of plenty they filled the air with chatter and laughter. They flew in flocks, enjoying the sweet fruits that hung heavy from the trees. They built nests and raised their young, and the forest seemed to smile on all of them. To the birds, the forest was only a place to live. But to the parrot, it was more than that. It was a living friend, a guardian, and a family that deserved respect. Seasons changed, as they always do, and sometimes the rains came late. When water grew scarce, the leaves turned dry and brittle. The rivers shrank, and the ground cracked under the heat of the sun. The once bright forest slowly lost its color. Still, the parrot stayed. It did not complain, for it knew that life moved in cycles. Hardship was not a reason to abandon one's home, but a chance to show patience and care. The parrot's loyalty did not go unnoticed. While other birds grew restless and began to dream of greener lands beyond the forest, the parrot reminded them that the forest had given them everything. If we leave now, it thought, what kind of gratitude is that? Shouldn't we stand by the place that raised us, just as it once stood by us? But not all creatures shared this feeling. Many of them, fearing hunger and thirst, took flight in search of safety elsewhere. The parrot remained behind, watching the forest grow weaker each day. Its heart ached, yet it never doubted its decision. A home is not something to trade for comfort. A home is where your roots are, where your gratitude lives, where your loyalty is tested. In those quiet hours, with the sun burning above and the leaves falling one by one, the parrot's devotion only grew stronger. It looked at the forest not as something fading away, but as something worth protecting no matter the cost. Thus the stage was set. A once-living forest stood on the edge of death. Most of its children had left, but one small parrot chose to stay. In that silence, the forest seemed to wait, as if asking, "Who will stand for me when the fire comes?" The answer was already there, hidden in the wings of the little bird that refused to abandon its home. One day the sky grew heavy and the wind changed. Dark clouds gathered, but instead of bringing rain, they carried only thunder and dry lightning. A flash split the sky and struck the heart of the forest. In a moment, the dry leaves caught fire. What began as a small spark quickly grew into a roaring blaze. Flames leapt from tree to tree, faster than any bird could fly, turning green branches into burning torches. Smoke rose thick and black, choking the sky and hiding the sun. The forest that had once been alive with color now screamed with the crackling sound of fire tearing through its body. Animals scattered in panic. Deer and rabbits fled across the ground, their eyes wide with fear. Snakes slid into burrows, hoping the flames would pass them by. Birds shrieked and beat their wings, filling the air with chaos. The mighty trees that had stood for hundreds of years groaned as fire devoured them, and branches fell with a crash that shook the earth. The forest was no longer a place of safety. It had become a trap of heat and smoke, and all who lived there feared for their lives. The parrot, small and fragile, looked at the burning world around it. Other birds cried out to one another, urging each other to fly far away. They told the parrot to save itself, to rise high into the sky and leave the forest to its fate. Many of them did just that, vanishing into the distance in search of a new home. The parrot, however, stayed. Its heart ached as it saw the flames tearing apart the trees that had once given it shelter. It could not abandon them now, not when they were suffering. The forest had given it food when it was hungry and shade when the sun was harsh. It had given it a place to rest when it was tired and protection from storms. How could it fly away and pretend it owed nothing? The fire grew stronger with each passing moment. Flames swallowed nests filled with young birds, and the cries of helpless creatures echoed through the smoke. The parrot felt its own fear rise within it, but stronger than fear was a sense of duty. I must do something, it thought. No matter how small, no matter how hopeless. With wings beating hard, it flew to a nearby river. Dipping itself into the water, it soaked its feathers and then flew back over the burning trees, shaking off the drops onto the fire below. The drops were tiny, hardly enough to matter. But the parrot did not stop. Again and again it flew to the river, carrying water in its feathers, spilling it on the flames, returning for more. Its wings grew heavy, and smoke stung its eyes. But it pressed on. The fire mocked the bird's efforts. The flames rose higher, stronger than ever, and each drop of water seemed to vanish before it touched the ground. Other birds, watching from a distance, laughed bitterly. "Foolish parrot," they said, "do you not see that you cannot stop the fire? You are wasting your strength. Fly away before you are burned." But the parrot did not listen. It felt the heat scorch its feathers, it smelled the smoke filling its lungs, and still it returned to the river. "This is my home," it whispered to itself. "If I do not try, then who will? Even if I fail, I cannot betray the place that gave me life." The flames raged on, surrounding the little bird as it darted back and forth. Its body trembled with exhaustion, its wings shook with pain, but its spirit refused to break. To the parrot, the size of the fire did not matter. What mattered was the act of gratitude, the act of love. Every drop of water it carried was a message to the forest: "You are not alone. I will stand with you, even if it costs me everything." As the fire roared louder and the smoke grew thicker, the parrot's struggle became more than a fight against flames. It became a symbol of devotion, a reminder that courage does not depend on strength, but on the heart that guides it. In that moment, the little bird, no larger than a hand, shone brighter than the fire itself, because it carried within its small body a flame far greater, the flame of loyalty and compassion. The parrot's wings beat with desperate rhythm as it carried water from the river to the burning trees. Each trip was harder than the one before. Its feathers were heavy with soot, its chest rose and fell in painful gasps. Yet it refused to give in. The forest was not only wood and leaves, it was the memory of every sunrise it had ever watched from the safety of a branch, every sweet fruit that had nourished it, every gentle breeze that had carried it through the sky. The parrot could not abandon those memories, and so it fought on, a small green figure against a wall of fire. The smoke burned its eyes, until tears streamed down its face, mixing with the ash that clung to its feathers. The heat scorched its body, and the tips of its wings were singed black, but still it returned to the river. Again and again it plunged into the cool water, shivering as it soaked itself before flying back toward the flames. Drops of water fell from its wings like tiny jewels, shining for a moment before being swallowed by the fire. It knew the drops were too small, too few, but it also knew that giving up was not an option. As the struggle wore on, exhaustion pulled at the little bird. Its wings felt like stones, its breath came in short bursts, and its heart pounded as if it would burst from its chest. Every time it rose from the river, it wondered if it could make it back to the fire, and every time it reached the trees it wondered if it could find the strength to return. Yet with each painful flight, it remembered the shade of the forest in summer, the sound of the rain on the leaves, the comfort of branches holding its nest. Gratitude pushed it onward when strength was gone. From the distance, other creatures looked on. Some shook their heads and turned away, unwilling to watch what seemed like certain death. Others whispered that the parrot was mad, sacrificing itself for nothing. A few even felt a sting of shame, for they had fled when danger came, leaving the forest to its fate. They wondered if perhaps the parrot was not foolish but brave, if perhaps they had been too quick to think only of themselves. But none of them returned. Only the little parrot kept flying, a lonely warrior against an endless sea of flames. Time seemed to slow, each moment stretching into eternity. The fire roared like a living beast, but the parrot would not bow to it. Its mind was fixed on one thought: "I will do what I can, even if it is small." That thought was stronger than fear, stronger than pain, stronger even than the fire itself. In its heart, the parrot felt no regret, only the calm certainty that it was doing what was right. At last, its wings trembled so badly that it almost fell into the flames. The heat rose up in waves, curling its feathers and filling its beak with the taste of smoke. It dropped the last few beads of water onto the burning branches and nearly collapsed from the effort. Still, it forced itself to turn back to the river once more. The forest needed it, and as long as it could draw breath, it would not stop. This struggle was no longer just about saving the trees. It was about honoring life itself. The parrot knew it was small, but it also knew that the size of the heart could not be measured by the size of the body. Each flight was an offering, a declaration of love and loyalty that the fire could never destroy. Even if the flames consumed the forest, they would never consume the parrot's devotion. And so it flew, wings ragged, feathers blackened, eyes burning with tears. In that terrible hour, the parrot seemed to shine brighter than the fire. For while the forest burned with destruction, the little bird burned with compassion, and that flame, though invisible, was stronger than the blaze that threatened to swallow the world. High above the smoke-filled sky, beyond the sight of men and beasts, the heavens looked. Down upon the burning forest, among the clouds, the gods watched as flames devoured trees and creatures fled in terror. They saw the little parrot flying again and again into the smoke, dipping itself in the river and returning with only a few drops of water to fight the raging fire. At first the gods smiled sadly at the sight, thinking it was no more than a desperate act of madness. But as they continued to watch, their smiles faded and their hearts grew heavy. This was no madness. This was loyalty so pure that it shone brighter than the fire itself. The chief of the gods, who ruled the heavens with power and wisdom, turned his gaze upon the earth. His eyes followed the parrot as it struggled against the flames. He could see how the bird's wings trembled, how its body was blackened by smoke, how its strength was nearly gone. Yet still it fought, refusing to abandon the forest. A deep compassion stirred in the heart of the god. He thought to himself, "What a small creature, and yet what a vast courage. How can I sit here in comfort while such loyalty burns itself out below?" The god descended from the heavens, clothed in light, and appeared before the little parrot. The air shimmered with his presence, and the fire seemed to pause in its hunger. The parrot, weary and near collapse, looked up and saw the radiant figure. But instead of being afraid, it bowed its head and prepared to fly again toward the river. The god raised his voice, gentle yet powerful, and asked, "Little bird, why do you suffer so? The fire is too great, and your body is too small. Do you not see that your drops of water cannot put out these flames? Why do you throw away your life?" The parrot lifted its eyes, and though they were red with smoke and filled with tears, they shone with a light stronger than exhaustion. "This is my home," it answered in a trembling voice. "These trees have sheltered me since I was born. Their fruits have fed me. Their branches have given me rest. When the sun burned, they gave me shade. When storms came, they kept me safe. How can I abandon them now, when they are in pain? Even if my drops of water are small, even if I burn with the forest, I must try. My heart cannot leave what is cared for me. My life means nothing if I betray this place." The god was moved, beyond words. For all his power and wisdom, he knew that true greatness was not in strength, but in love so deep it would face death without hesitation. Tears filled his eyes, and he whispered, "O brave parrot, your heart is greater than the sky itself." Then he lifted his hand toward the heavens. Clouds gathered thick and dark, rolling across the smoke-filled sky. Thunder roared, and soon a heavy rain began to fall. Drop after drop poured down, striking the flames with a hiss. The fire, once fierce and wild, weakened under the flood of water. Branches stopped burning, leaves steamed, and the smoke began to clear. The forest, though scarred and blackened, was saved. The little parrot lay on a branch, exhausted, wings scorched, and body trembling. It looked up and saw the rain washing over the trees. Relief filled its heart, and it closed its eyes with gratitude. The god, still watching, spoke softly, "Your courage has called down the rain. Know that your love has not been in vain. You have shown the world that even the smallest creature can move the heavens when its heart is pure." And with that, the god rose back into the sky, leaving the forest bathed in rain and the parrot resting at peace. The flames were gone, but the memory of the bird's struggle would live on forever, a reminder that devotion, even in the smallest body, carries a strength that can save the world. When the fire had been put out and the rain had washed the smoke from the air, the forest lay silent. Charred branches and scorched leaves bore witness to the destruction that had swept through, yet life still remained. New shoots would one day grow from the blackened soil, and the forest would live again. The parrot, though weak and burned, rested under the cool drops of rain. Its body was broken, but its heart was unshaken. In the stillness of that moment, the story of its struggle carried a lesson far greater than the fire it had faced. The first lesson is about loyalty. The parrot had every chance to escape. Like the other birds, it could have flown away and found another forest, safe and untouched by flames. But loyalty held it firm. It remembered the shelter the trees had once given, the fruits that had once filled its belly, the peace that the forest had always offered. Gratitude gave birth to loyalty, and loyalty gave birth to action in our own lives. This story reminds us not to forget the people, the places, and even the values that have supported us. When times are good, loyalty is easy, but true loyalty reveals itself in hardship, when standing by something means risk and sacrifice. The parrot teaches us that loyalty is not measured by words, but by what we are willing to endure for the sake of love and gratitude. The second lesson is about responsibility. The parrot was small, weaker than the fire, weaker than the storm, weaker than the vast forces of nature that raged around it. Yet it did not use its weakness as an excuse to do nothing. It knew that it could not stop the flames, yet it felt a deep responsibility to try. Many of us face problems so large that we feel powerless, whether in our families, our communities, or the world itself. We think, what difference can one person make? The parrot shows us that the measure of responsibility is not the size of the problem, but the sincerity of our effort. To act with a sense of duty, even when the task seems impossible, is to honor life itself. The third lesson lies in the truth of compassion. Compassion is not pity. It is not a passing feeling of sadness for the suffering of others. Compassion is an active force, a decision to share in the pain of another and to act for their well-being, no matter the cost. The parrot did not watch the fire and feel sorry for the forest. It acted, even when its wings were torn and its body was scorched. True compassion is not measured by success, but by the willingness to stand with others in their time of need. This is the heart of Buddhist teaching, that compassion, when genuine, becomes a power that can move even the heavens. There is also a lesson about the value of small actions. The parrot carried only drops of water. To the eyes of others, those drops seem useless against the sea of flames. But it is often the small actions, done with pure intention, that matter most. In the end, it was not the drops alone that saved the forest, but the spirit behind them that called down the rain. The story reminds us that no effort made with love is ever wasted. Even when we cannot see the result, our actions carry weight in ways we may never understand. A kind word, a small act of generosity, a moment of courage, all may seem insignificant, but together they can change the course of life. For those who follow the path of the Buddha, the parrot's story shines as an example of the law of cause and effect. Every action born from a pure heart creates conditions for good to arise. The parrot did not act out of desire for reward. It acted out of gratitude and love. Yet its sincerity moved the god to intervene, and the rain came. This is the mystery of compassion. It awakens compassion in others. Just as anger spreads anger, kindness awakens kindness. In this way, the little parrot's struggle shows us that goodness has the power to multiply, and that the courage of one heart can stir the universe itself. The story also teaches that true strength is not in size, wealth, or power, but in devotion and sincerity. A bird so small that it could be crushed by a single branch became greater than the flames because it acted with a heart unshaken by fear. In a world where people often measure value by what is big and strong, the parrot reminds us that greatness lies in the invisible strength of love and integrity. As the rain fell and the fire died, the forest bore scars, but it also bore the mark of a lesson eternal. Even the smallest being, guided by loyalty, responsibility, and compassion, can make a difference. This truth is as real today as it was in the story. We may not fight flames with drops of water, but we face the fires of greed, anger, and fear every day. Each act of kindness, each moment of courage, each choice to remain loyal when it is easier to walk away. These are the drops of water that save our world. The moral of the wise parrot is simple yet profound. Never doubt the power of a pure heart. Do not measure your worth by size or strength, but by the sincerity of your actions. For in the end, it is not the fire that is remembered, but the small bird that stood against it, teaching us that love and gratitude can overcome even the greatest of trials. The story of the wise parrot may seem far away, like a tale from another world, but its lesson is deeply close to us because the fire the parrot faced is not only in the forest, it is also in our own lives. Every day, people face fires of another kind, fires of anger, greed, fear, and despair. These fires spread quickly, not through trees but through hearts and minds, burning away peace, trust, and harmony. In such times, the question we often ask is the same as the question the parrot faced. What can one small being do against such great flames? The answer, as the story teaches, is to do what we can with love and sincerity, no matter how small our action may seem. In families, there are times when misunderstandings and conflicts rise up like sparks in dry grass. A single word spoken in anger can spread like fire, leaving behind wounds that are hard to heal. Many people choose to walk away or to feed the fire with more harsh words. But one person who chooses to act like the parrot, bringing drops of kindness, patience, and forgiveness, can begin to put out the flames. A smile offered when tension is high, a calm voice when others are shouting, a willingness to listen when no one else will listen. These may seem small, but they can turn the tide. Just as the drops of the parrot called down the rain, such small acts of love can bring peace back into the family. In society, too, we see fires of division, where people separate themselves by race, class, belief, or politics. The flames of suspicion and hate grow stronger when no one dares to stand for unity. Here again, the parrot's lesson shines. Even one person, through acts of fairness and compassion, can remind others of our shared humanity. Choosing not to spread rumors, choosing to stand up for someone treated unfairly, choosing to give instead of take. These actions may not seem to change the whole world at once, but they plant seeds that others may follow. When kindness is seen, it awakens kindness in others, just as the parrot's sincerity moved the god to tears. In the workplace, the fire may take the form of greed or dishonesty. It may seem that to survive one must do whatever it takes, even if it harms others. Many choose to go along, fearing they are too small to resist. But like the parrot, one person's courage can inspire change. Refusing to cheat, refusing to harm, refusing to put self above integrity. These actions are drops of water in a burning field. Others may at first laugh or doubt, but truth has a power that spreads quietly, and in time it can become the rain that cools the fire. In our own minds, perhaps the greatest fire of all is despair, the feeling that nothing we do matters, that the problems of the world are too heavy, and that our efforts are too small. This is the fire that makes people give up before they begin. But the parrot teaches us to let go of the thought that we must succeed to make our effort meaningful. The parrot did not think, I will surely stop this fire. It only thought, I must try because this forest is my home. When we act not for reward, but out of love and gratitude, our actions carry meaning beyond what we can see. In this way, each step, each word, each choice becomes a drop of water, and no drop is wasted. Modern life is full of speed, competition, and pressure, and sometimes we feel that the only way to survive is to think only of ourselves. But the parrot reminds us that true strength is not found in turning away, but in standing firm in compassion. One person who cares deeply can change the atmosphere of a home, a community, even a workplace. We may not bring rain from the heavens, but we can bring comfort, peace, and hope to those around us. And often, that is enough to change more than we realize. The Wise Parrot story calls us to live not as bystanders, but as participants in the struggle for goodness. It asks us to remember that every drop matters, and that even the smallest act, if done with a pure heart, can ripple out and touch lives far beyond our own. In a world where it is easy to feel powerless, this story gives us the courage to act, not because we are certain of victory, but because love itself is worth the effort. And when enough people act with such sincerity, the rain will surely come, and the fires that threaten our world will be cooled. The story of the Wise Parrot is not only an old tale to be told for children or for monks in temples. It is a mirror for our own hearts. When we listen carefully, we see ourselves in that small bird, standing before fires much larger than our strength, facing choices that test our loyalty, our responsibility, and our compassion. The forest that the parrot tried to save is not far away. It is the very world we live in today. It is our families, our friendships, our communities, and even the fragile earth that sustains us. And the fire that threatened to destroy everything is the same fire of greed, hatred, and fear that still spreads across our lives. What the parrot teaches us is that greatness does not come from size or power, but from the courage to act with love even when the outcome is uncertain. It reminds us that we are never too small to make a difference, that every drop of kindness, every choice of honesty, every act of compassion matters. Alone, it may feel like nothing, but together, these drops call down the rain that can cool the fires of the world. In the end, the story is not about victory over the flames, but about the purity of intention. The parrot acted because it loved, not because it calculated the result. This is the true path of goodness. To act because it is right, to give because we are grateful, to love because it is our nature. When we live in this way, we align ourselves with the deeper truth of life, where every cause has its effect, and every heart that beats with compassion becomes part of the healing of the world. So let us remember the little parrot when we face our own fires. Let us not give in to despair or hide behind the thought that we are too small. Instead, let us carry our drops of water, our kindness, our patience, our courage into the flames. For though we may not always see the rain come, we can be certain that no drop is ever wasted, and that in the end, it is love that endures.